Welcome to the Swim Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, we have got NCAA All-American for the Cal Golden Bears. He's a Commonwealth Games medalist, Pan American Games medalist, most recently a 2024 Canadian Olympian, and medical school graduate. Today we're talking to Dr. Jeremy Bagshaw. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a cool to be here with you guys.
This episode of the Swim Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, Swim Swam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. I'm excited to talk about this journey that you've been on for quite a long time now, but has really culminated in so many ways just in the last couple of months. You just told me your medical school graduation was today. You weren't there because it was in Ireland. But how does it feel to have completed that? How long is medical school? I don't even know. 4 years? 5 years?
For us, it's 4 years. So in Ireland, they kind of have multiple tracks. You can kind of do the 6-year program straight out of high school, or a 5-year program with some undergrad, and then or the 4-year program, which is similar to North America. So I did the 4-year program just because I had an undergrad degree beforehand. So it's pretty similar setup that they do here in Canada and in the States.
Okay. And why Ireland? I was curious about that.
One of the big reasons why is I got in. That was kind of it's hard to can't really be pick and choose with that. So especially in Canada, we have so few medical schools. It is a lot harder to get into and way more competitive, and it transfers over pretty well to Canada once I'm over there. So I think that was a kind of an easy choice for me once I got in there to pick Ireland.
Yeah, I was also wondering about the transference and how that might work, but that's great. Is it? I mean, are you a little bummed that you weren't able to attend your graduation, or were you, I don't know, able to be there virtually or anything like that?
Definitely was a little bit bummed to miss the graduation, but I think knowing that I'm prepping for Paris was kind of a good substitute for graduation. But I think it would have been cool to be there kind of with my classmates and enjoy that whole ceremony part of it and kind of close off that chapter of school. Would have been really nice to be there for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you weren't able to join, but as you said, you're preparing for other things, and those take precedent right now. I mean, just let's dive into that. You're an Olympian now for Canada. You've been to 5 Olympic trials.
How many? So my first one was in 2008.
Okay. So you've been to a lot of Olympic trials, and on your 5th one, you made your first Olympic team. How is that sitting with you now? You know, just having time to process that, and then obviously now you're prepping for Paris. What's that feeling like for you now?
It's still a little bit surreal. Like I don't think it still will have fully set in until I get to Paris, because I think it's still kind of, I've had that disappointment for so many times that it's just kind of like, oh, I finally did it. And also to do it by so little, like I think I made the team by 4/100ths of a second, which is also pretty much what I missed out on in 2016. So it's kind of crazy to think that it was kind of both ends of that. I've been on both ends of that hundredths of a second for making a team, but it's still surreal and it's pretty exciting. And I'm really excited for it just because the preparation for an Olympics is so much different than a trials. I think there's a lot more stress. I find trials way more stressful than any summer meets, just because if you don't perform that one day, you don't get to go in the summer. Whereas when you're in the summer, it's a lot more fun. You actually enjoy the race a lot more than actually racing towards a time or anything like that. So I think prepping for the Olympics so far it's been way more fun than prepping for a trials.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. I know in the US, a lot of athletes kind of mirror that sentiment as well of like trials is such a stressful meet. And I've never been to a world champs or an Olympics in the summer, but like I imagine it's probably stress, but a different kind, and you're able to relax a bit and just kind of enjoy the race and the process there. So in terms of your preparation for this trials, was there were you still very stressed, or was there somewhat of freedom knowing that you'd been in this position so many times and now you might be, were you more comfortable with where you were at in your career versus past trials?
I think definitely in the lead up, I was like kind of up until race day of the two free. I definitely felt like I was a lot more relaxed. I'd kind of come to terms with my whole swimming career and not really putting a ton of pressure on this one moment defining my career of I've had such a great career. And obviously if I don't make the Olympics, is that going to change everything I've done in swimming and all the experiences I've had? But definitely when it came down to race day and sitting in the ready room, that's when the pressure really set in. And I was just like, okay, it's go time. I got to do this because it's the one piece that was missing from my swimming career that I really wanted to do. So I think it's the only team that I haven't made on at a senior level. So that pressure definitely set in. As much as I tried to working with the sports psych to kind of not let that get in the moment a little bit, right behind the blocks, but it definitely still set in. I don't think that pressure is would ever have gone away, no matter what I had done to prepare. But I think being older, I kind of accepted it a little bit more of just it is what it is, and just go out there and have fun with it. Because I was standing behind the blocks, I thought to myself, this could be my last swim race ever. So why am I going to be miserable or stressed about it? I might as well enjoy it like I did when I was a kid, and the whole reason why I got in the sport.
Yeah, I mean that's could be your last race ever, and that. Can you take me through the race then? You have the pressure behind the blocks, but then you also have this moment of clarity of, win, lose or draw. Let's just go out there and go. Like, how was the race for you? Was it a good race? Were you not very happy with the race, but happy with the result? I mean, how did you execute?
I was obviously very happy with the result, but I think I definitely swam it pretty poorly because I think if you look at my first 50, I think I was almost zero point 0.6 slower out than I was in the morning. So I was out pretty slow. And I think at halfway, I was in 10th place, which isn't where I want to be. And for me being in the race, I actually didn't realize where I was because I think we were still relatively tight to the field, but I happened to just turn 10th. And I think seeing the race afterwards, I realized, wow, I was cutting it real close there. I definitely could have swum it a lot better. And I think that's what I've had so many races where I've died on the back end of a two free. And I think just didn't want that to happen. So I kind of went out a little bit too easy, but it did let me finish strong, which was helpful. But it's good for me now. I can try and piece those things together moving forward to Paris and kind of our last little prep to get ready for that. So I don't make that same mistake when we're in Paris.
Yeah, I mean it's always good to have things moving forward, but it is funny to look at a race that has so much meaning, but at the same time you're like, I didn't do that well. It's like I could have done things a lot better in the execution piece of it. But again, congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment, and it was such a cool story to see that after so long you finally got that missing piece in your career.
Yeah, it was cool. And I think like I still didn't believe it when I was looking at the scoreboard. I definitely had to look a couple times and make sure. And then it definitely took a while to set in. And I think it was also a bit weird too with our selection policy too of having to wait to Sunday. So it was also not just like in that moment I knew for sure and I could really celebrate. It was kind of had to let it sit in and wait a couple days to really before it actually set in. And so that definitely took a bit of a different approach to it, to celebrating and enjoying that specific moment, because it was still a little bit of uncertainty with the relay only swimmers and those allocation and quota spots for that. So that definitely didn't I don't think I could have been as excited in the moment as if I knew for sure, like right when I touched, I was going 100%.
Yeah, and I know that will be a weird moment at many trials. I know at the U.S. trials as well. The fifth and sixth place finishers. It's like, well, you'll probably get to go, but you can't celebrate yet. It's not a sure thing. Because yeah, just at our last trials, we had a sixth place finisher in the men's 100 free who didn't end up qualifying, and so that is an interesting situation, or like delayed gratification. But how did you ultimately celebrate? Was your family there? Did you get to have those moments both right after the race as well as when you were officially selected for the team?
Yeah, so unfortunately, my parents actually weren't in town for trials. They were in Singapore for a cousin's wedding, but I definitely called them right away and got to celebrate with them after that, because they stayed up till I think it was 2 in the morning there to watch. So I managed to get them before they went back to sleep. But it was cool to celebrate with them, and then also even right after the pool, like I saw Brittany McLean, who was there doing sideline for CBC, and she was the first person I saw. She came and gave me a big hug, and everybody, just because I've been in the sport for so long, I guess a lot of people have seen that heartbreak that I've had, and so many people were so excited for me. Coaches, because I think at this point in my career, I know more coaches on the pool deck. I swam with more coaches on the pool deck than current swimmers. So it was cool to see a lot of the coaches that I grew up swimming with and I was on junior teams with, kind of acknowledging it and celebrating it with me.
Which, I mean, what a way to yeah, what a point in a career, and just what a culmination, right, of a career. And so I want to go back. I mean, really, I remember you had a huge moment at the 2014 NCAA's, in Austin, when your mile kind of set the tone for that last final session and bringing home an NCAA title for Cal. But I kind of want to go through your career since then, and obviously, didn't you were still swimming and still competing at a very high level through 2016, but missed the team at those trials. And then when did med school for you come into the equation, or you start considering that after being a professional swimmer for a while?
So I'd always planned on going to med school. I think during my senior year at Cal, I took the MCAT. But
Mm.
then when I came back and swam in 2016, missed the team then, I was starting to think of whether I was going to continue swimming or not. And I figured in 2016, I would have been 24. So I figured I still had 4 years left in me. I could still swim. So I kind of put that on the back burner a little bit and got a master's degree so I could still be doing a little bit of school while I was swimming. Because for me, I could spread out the master's degree over a couple years and kind of chip away at that while I was still kind of prepping for Tokyo. So that's kind of what my alternative was to med school while I was swimming through there,
Mm.
through that kind of quad.
And where were
And
you
then
training at that point?
I was in Victoria. I was at the center here in Victoria.
Okay.
So from kind of May 2015, after I left Cal, till kind of July 2020, I was in Victoria training at the center
Okay.
here. Yeah. So through all of that, I was training here in Victoria, and then got my master's done here at UVic, at the local university here, while I was doing that. And then throughout those last couple of years, I think I applied before the pandemic, knowing that, assuming all went to plan, Tokyo would have been 2020, start September 2020. So I applied for that cycle regardless. And then when all of that happened, the whole pandemic happened, I still ended up starting in September 2020 over in Ireland. So I went over to Ireland in that September just to start med school, regardless of swimming.
Mm-hmm. And then tell me, so I guess for that year, were you training? Did you end up going to? I mean, you did end up going to trials in 2021, but can you tell me about that year and kind of, yeah, how things shifted? Obviously, everyone's plans had to kind of shift because of the pandemic at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually a very interesting year. So most of that year I was training by myself during that pandemic, because public pools weren't open to the public, but I also wasn't able to train with the group that was training at the university there, just because
Oh
they
wow.
were a national center. So I was
Yeah.
training mostly by myself through most of that year, getting ready for those trials. And I ended up leaving school early in that April. Yeah, it would have been that April, because most of the stuff was online anyways. Like once they told us that our exams would be online, I went back to Vancouver and then did my last little prep for 2021 trials in Vancouver. So
Okay.
once we found out that exams would be online, that's kind of when I went back to Vancouver and finished my prep there for trials.
Yeah. And then can you take me through that trials and how it went for you and how you were feeling after?
Yeah, that was definitely a weird trial. Just having obviously that was the only time I'd raced in over a year at that point. So it
Wow.
was like the first proper racing that we've done, other than random stand-ups in practice. It was like the first proper racing experience that I'd done. So it was definitely a little weird doing that, and also coming from 2 weeks of quarantine beforehand. The amount of I think over that whole year, I did maybe 2 months of quarantine time where I was out of the pool. Just whether it's when I had COVID, a roommate had COVID, so I wasn't able to go to the pool, travel back to Canada, travel from Canada to Ireland. So all of those times, I
Gosh.
definitely had about 2 months of out of the pool doing nothing.
Yeah.
But so that definitely, I think, mentally played more of a role than anything. Just thinking I hadn't really adjusted to that very well. Kind of not knowing where I'd be in training, taking 2 weeks out every couple months. But so I wasn't very happy with how I swam there. Obviously, it didn't get the results that I wanted. And I kind of was pretty much done with swimming at that point. So I think that was that May, and I didn't get back in the water until October, until I went back to Ireland and then sat down with the coaches that were in Ireland and kind of had a chat with them and figured out whether it would be worthwhile for me to keep swimming or not.
So I mean that honestly, that's a little quicker than I thought. The timeline might have been. So I mean, so you took a couple months or a few months, and you were kind of done with swimming, and then what inspired the talk with the coaches, right? Was there something that maybe happened in a day or a week or a month that was like, oh, okay, maybe I will give this another try?
Yeah, I think throughout those couple months, I spent a lot of time with my family and friends, and just kind of a lot of them felt that I still had a lot left to give in swimming, even though I was kind of reaching that older threshold of age in swimming. Not many people are swimming past 30 at a high level, but I still, based on the training I'd been doing, I still felt that I had something left in me. I knew I still had a good 200 freestyle left in me. And then talking to the coaches too, something that they liked here was what I could bring to the group there. And I think they thought with the experience that I had would be really beneficial to the team that was training there. And I actually really enjoyed that idea of it, of being able to kind of help the group that was there and see how kind of improve that training group and see what we can do with them. And because they had a really good training group there, and I really liked training with those college kids. Made me feel young again, and I kind of enjoyed that. And that was something that kind of really pulled me back, was that team that was there. They were a big part of the reason why I went back to swimming.
Um, I mean, and that's very cool to hear. Just you have these different iterations of your career, and yeah, and you still can find value and meaning out of each one of them, right? And maybe in unexpected ways. And so you get to train with this group, and then can you tell me about how the next couple of years go? I mean, I'm looking at your bio right now, and it's like you won 3 international medals, one at the Com Games in 22, two at the Pan American Games in 23. Now, how did you feel about how you were progressing moving towards this 2024 Olympic year?
Yeah, I think everything was going kind of in the right direction. I think I was 149 at those trials in 2021, and I was still slowly chipping away and getting a little bit faster and a little bit faster. And I still knew, because I think in 2015 I was 147.4, and I still had a strong feeling that I could go 147 again. And I was slowly kind of working my way back to that level again. And I was able to see getting those medals was something cool too, because up until that point, I think I only won a bronze at 2015 Pan Ams. So getting to go to Commonwealth Games and get a medal there, and then Pan Ams in Santiago was to get medals there as well, was something cool. It's always fun to go to those international meets, and that's what I loved about swimming. So getting the chance to keep doing that was kind of a big part of it. Reason why too is getting to go back and compete on relays, because I think something earlier on in my senior career, like in 2015, I was only swimming at individual events. We weren't really swimming any relays, and a big part of me was I really wanted to get the Canadian 4x2 back, to try and get it back to where we used to be. Because I remember as a kid how big of a deal it was when we won a silver medal in 2005, and then won a silver medal. I believe a silver medal again in 2007 in the 4x2. And I remember me as a kid watching that. I thought that was so cool. And then since then, our men's 4x2 hasn't really been where at that level. And I think that's something that's been a big goal of mine over the past 8 years, was to get that relay and kind of bring it back to the Olympics and get us qualified again. And hopefully that now that we've qualified the relay to swim it there, we'll have all these young kids, which I've been able to see. Our whole final was everybody was super young. Mm-hmm. We had young kids that are still in high school going 148s. We had kids who were in grade 10 going 149, which is, to me, was crazy, because I didn't break 150 till I was 22. So it's seeing some of these 16-year-old kids going 149 is pretty cool, especially in Canada, where it doesn't happen very often. So I think that progression of kids seeing the 4x2 progress in Canada, and that possibility of it being swum at the Olympics, us doing well at World Championships, I think that's inspired a lot of kids, and I want to keep that going.
Did your training see a progression as well, especially when you moved to Ireland? Did how you approach your training shift at all, or just, what you were doing in the pool, even, especially under a new coach and with a new training group and a more, lasered in focus on just that 200 freestyle?
I think overall it's definitely had to adjust quite a bit, especially as I get older. I can't do the same 80K weeks that I used to be doing in high school. And so that's a big change that I had to adapt to myself mentally, because I'd been so used to that kind of grind program of we swim more, we swim harder than everybody else, and that's why I'm better. And then having to make that adjustment, because not only am I older, but also trying to balance med school, I just don't have the time to be grinding out 8K workouts 10 times a week. So we've had to make those adjustments. And I think that was something that I really commend the coaches that I had in Ireland there. We were able to work and find a really good balance of cutting down the volume for me and picking and choosing where I would be able to kind of focus my attention in training, and balancing it with school as well. So I've had to make a lot of big adjustments, but I think mentally it's the biggest one, was changing that whole mindset of my training, of not being that high volume, high grind program to a more focused 200 free training program that obviously it worked out and ended up working out well for me.
How did you balance swimming and med school, just in terms of your weekly schedule and when you were I assume med school, I don't know, can take up to 10 or 12 hours a day at some points. Maybe that's not accurate, but how were you balancing training and doing med school both at a high level?
So I was really lucky, honestly, that I started med school during the pandemic, because the first 2 years, where it's mostly very lecture heavy and a lot of preclinical stuff where we're just sitting in lectures, learning stuff like that, it was all online. So because of the pandemic, we couldn't do in-person lectures. So a lot of them were recorded, so I could watch them kind of anytime. I didn't have to be in a lecture theater from 9 till 11 or 3 to 4. So I could kind of adjust my schedule like that. So the pandemic actually really helped me balance school and swimming in that sense, allowing me to do a little bit of that. And then once I moved into the hospital, I just had to, it's harder to adjust my hospital work schedule compared to my swimming schedule. So the swimming schedule is a little bit easier to move around. So pretty much every couple of weeks, I'd have to sit down with my coaches and plan out in 3-week blocks of, I need to be at the hospital at these hours. When can I swim? I'll swim a little bit earlier in the morning, say 5:30 to 7:30, as opposed to 6:30 to 8:30. Or in the evenings, I'd have to swim from 5:30 to 7:30 or 5:30 to 6:30, do an hour session instead of doing a full 2-hour session. So just having the foresight to plan in advance and doing it in 3-week blocks as we went was kind of the key, and being able to work with the coaches. And especially as I got older, it became more of a conversation between the coaches and I of what I needed, what I felt I needed, what they thought I needed as well. And we came to more of an agreement on that front, as opposed to when I was younger, it was more whatever the coaches told me, I just did. So it became, as I became more of a veteran and kind of used my experience to my benefit as well, I worked with them and they took my advice, I took their advice, and we could find a pretty good middle ground on what we think I needed for my training.
That's inspiring stuff. I mean, that's really cool to hear that you had such a supportive team around you to help you do it, and to just for you to have the discipline and motivation to want to do it? I mean, I mean, I know you've spoken on this already, but you felt you had more to give. You were obviously in some facet chasing an Olympic dream. I mean, were those the things that were primarily motivating you on a day-to-day basis? Was there something else that would, you know, it sounds like a lot of work, right? And something that you really have to want to do to do it for 3 years.
Yeah, I definitely, obviously, every day waking up, that was kind of my goal, was qualifying for the Olympics. Because even regardless of whether I made world championships or not, I still knew the final goal was going to be this year's trials. So I wasn't trying to, I was thinking more of the long picture as opposed to the year by year as we went of what that trials was. And also, I think a big part of it was I like a good challenge. And I thought, I just kind of looked at it as this is another challenge. Can I balance swimming and med school? Can I have, and kind of make it a game of like, what can I do with it and how can I balance it? And I think that was a big part of it too, was kind of enjoying that challenge, because I love kind of trying to do silly things. I make everything a game to myself, and just kind of, I treated it almost like a game of like, where can I be how can I be the best in both of those while I was going through it. But definitely the Olympics was there in the back of my mind every day waking up.
So, you know, and now it's kind of come full circle. And so moving into the next 6 weeks, you're in Victoria, you're training in your home in Canada. What does the next 6 weeks look like for you? And what are you hoping to carry from trials into Paris?
I think so. We're going to Setacoli. So I leave next Monday. So we're going to be racing in Setacoli. There's a small group of us that are going. And then I'm going to be transitioning from working with my club team here to working with Greg Arkhurst from Montreal. So he's going to be my coach leading into Paris, so through staging and through the games. And there's a small group of us that are all going to go to Setacoli to race. And just for me, I jumped at that opportunity to go over there because this is obviously going to be probably my last summer swimming. So I was like, why not enjoy myself, go to a meet that I've never been to, go race in Rome, which was a historic pool that I've always wanted to swim at, go enjoy a couple weeks in Europe training before the games. So I jumped at this opportunity knowing that I could do that. And I think going to learn from the mistakes I made at trials in my race and focusing on those pieces in training and just enjoying myself. Training is so different now. Kind of, it's like a big weight's been lifted off my shoulders because I don't have that. Every day going to the pool was always like, oh, I've got to make the Olympic team. I've got to make the Olympic team. What if I don't, kind of thing. Whereas now I've already made it. Now swimming is not that it was never fun, but there was always that little piece that was there, at that little kind of the monkey on my back. And now that that's gone, swimming is so much fun. I just don't worry about if I don't do great in practice. If I have one off practice, it's not the end of the world. I don't really worry about it as much. So it's a lot more fun for sure. Prepping for the next couple of weeks.
So you'll go to Setacoli in Rome, and then will you stay in Europe through Paris, or will you come back? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Barcelona to train, and then meet up with the rest of the team in early July, just outside Paris.
Yeah, that sounds like the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I had to jump at the opportunity because this is the other thing about swimming is it's because it's such a finite time. Once I'm done swimming, the opportunities like this don't really come the same way. You can't just take 6 weeks of vacation to go train in the sun and enjoy swimming in the sun for very long. So I got to take it while I can.
No kidding. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a really good time. Like you said, Rome, a historic pool, the fastest 200 free ever was swum in that pool. So that's going to be a really exciting meet. What will you race there? Will you do anything aside from the 200 free?
Yeah, I'm going to do the 4 free and the 100 free as well, just so I have kind of one race a day.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
How has it been aging in the 400 free for you? You know, as a veteran, do you feel like you can still throw down a good one, or has that event, become more challenging as you've gotten older?
It's definitely been a lot more challenging, especially the training for it. Because I feel like the training for a 400 to actually do a really good 400 it's kind of its own unique beast that you gotta train for.
Yeah.
And just with my limited time schedule and everything, it was a lot harder. But I feel like from my experience, I've been able to throw down half decent 400 frees every once in a while. So with a little bit of rest, I can still throw down a half decent 400 free.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, how has aging in the 100 free been? I'm guessing maybe kind of the opposite, but especially with how fast the 100 free has gotten in Canada on the men's side.
Oh yeah, that's more. I use the 100 free more as training for the 200 because I've never had the front end speed, just because I've always come from such a distance background, especially swimming the mile at Cal. Always been a 400, 800, 1500 swimmer in high school. So that 100 free has always just been kind of just for fun, see how much speed I can go and how hard I can try. But other than that, it's more just training for the 200 and trying to work on that front end speed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds like a really exciting next few weeks for you. And then just, leading into Paris, do you have personal goals for yourself aside from just, maybe going a certain time? Because I'm guessing you will probably have a finite amount of swims in Paris, and that's not necessarily in your control. And so, what are you hoping to accomplish just for yourself as a swimmer over these next 6 weeks and when you're at Paris?
I think my biggest thing is just really enjoy every moment that I have with it, just because, yeah, like you said, it is kind of like the end of my swimming career. And I think if I as I was young when I was younger, I would kind of just go to the meets and be so solely focused on the swimming that I'd kind of forget about everything else and not really enjoy the whole experience. And something like the Olympics, it is such an experience. There's so much going on, seeing athletes from all around the country, experiencing the village, experiencing that whole environment. I think that's something, one of my biggest goals through this is obviously to swim really fast, and hopefully we can get that relay to hopefully make a final at the Olympics. We'll see. I'm sure we're on that outside edge there. And if all of us go a little bit faster, we might be able to sneak in there, which is kind of what my goal is, on a swimming level, but also to kind of go slow through the Olympics and just appreciate every moment that I have with it, because it's something so unique. And something that I've heard from a lot of older swimmers is they didn't enjoy the experience of the Olympics as much as they did, when they look back on it. They were just so solely focused on the swimming that they wish they took a little bit more time to enjoy everything else with it. So I think I'm taking that advice from a lot of older swimmers of kind of moving slow through these next couple of weeks and just kind of enjoying every moment that I get with it. Because obviously, like I said, my swimming career it's a very finite time, and it's a very unique time in my life that I'll never get to experience something like this again. So I definitely want to appreciate every moment that I get with it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of advice, I think, just to wrap this conversation up, I think more and more we're seeing swimmers age deeper and deeper into their careers, which is great. It's what you want to see in the sport, right? But I think there comes a time in probably every athlete's career at a certain point where you start to wonder, oh, is this it? Like, should I be done? Should I move on? Should I, go start a normal life outside of athletics? And I think we've seen a lot of examples in swimming of athletes kind of, persevering and continuing their careers and having various amounts of success with that. And I think you're in a unique position where you kind of achieved your ultimate goal, that you hadn't for so long. And so for anyone who is questioning, oh, is it time to move on? Is it time to keep training and pursuing what I want to accomplish? What helped you through that process?
I think one of the biggest things for me was whether I still enjoyed going to the pool. Because I don't think I could have gone through the last 3 years if I went to the pool every day, treating it like a job of, oh, I have to go to the pool. So I think that was a big thing for me. Was I kind of told myself going into this is, once I start to feel like that, I think that's when it's time to give it up. When I wasn't truly enjoying it like a sport, kind of treating it like I was when I was a kid, of just, it's swimming, it's a sport, we're here to have fun. Once I kind of lost that, was when I knew I'd tell myself that I'd for sure have to give it up. And that, because I wasn't doing it for the right reasons for myself. So once I wasn't doing it for my own personal enjoyment, then that's kind of when I knew I would have to give it up. And luckily for me, I never felt that way. And I think a big part of it was the training group that I was with. They made it a lot of fun. We always had a good time every day at practice. So that kind of is what I enjoyed as well. And another part of it too was when I made the decision to come back in 2021, that October, was whether I'd regret not coming back. So whether come 2024, if I had not swum, would I regret not swimming those 3 or 4 years leading into it, regardless of whether I made the Olympic team or not? And I think at that time, I think I would have regretted it if I didn't take this chance. So I think that was a big part of it. Was I was still going to be in school. So why not keep swimming? It's not like I needed to start work. I needed to do all these things. I was still in school, so I could still do what I was doing, still progress my life outside of swimming. So why not take it? Because I think I would have regretted it if I didn't take that jump to continue swimming. So that was a big part of it, was looking whether I would regret it or not as well. I've really enjoyed this the past couple of weeks, because I've had a lot of people talking to me about swimming, and I've got to relive my swimming career for so long. And I think that's been really cool, especially reminiscing with old teammates, kind of things that we were doing on junior teams, my early times on the senior team as well. And just getting to relive those moments kind of reminded me why I kept swimming and just enjoying. And I think that's been a cool part of these past couple of weeks after making the team, was getting to relive a lot of these memories with old teammates.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.